use modern fundraising to help Black ministries and Black nonprofits thrive. That's what we focus on. And what we do is we help them modernize their fundraising approach with cases for support, direct asks to individuals, special events, grant writing, and more importantly, we provide the resources that they need. So it's not just that we're telling them what to do, but we're actually doing it as we're telling them what to do. So I just wanted you to know who we are. And now, even more importantly, I want to welcome and introduce to some of you, many of you all know, Reverend Dr. Joseph W. Daniels Jr. He's a dear friend of mine, very good friend. I've known Joe for several years. He's actually a brother of mine. And I'm going to just read through his bio just to let you know the company we are keeping. Joe is the lead pastor at Emory Fellowship in Washington, D.C. He's been there since 1992. He is the founder of Emory Beacon of Light. It's the church's nonprofit arm. It focuses on housing, youth development, and food security. Former district superintendent of the greater Washington, D.C. district for the United Methodist Church. He is co founder of Washington Interfaith, which is WIN. He is the co-founder of DC Power, which stands for People Organized for Wealth, Equity, and Respect. He developed the Beacon Center, which is a $60 million with 99 units of affordable housing, church facilities, and nonprofit space. And I think that's a shot of it behind him. It's truly a remarkable place. I really enjoy visiting when I come to DC and see Joe. He's an author of 4 books, and I'll name 2 of them. One is Begging for Real Church, and the next one he's written, although as I said, he's written 4, is Walking with Nehemiah. He's an adjunct professor at Wesley Theological Seminary. He's recognized nationally for community transformation and economic justice through faith. He holds degrees from American University, Howard University, School of Divinity, and Wesley Theological Seminary. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a grandfather, and he's committed to multi-generational leadership in the Black faith community, as well as a dear, dear friend of mine. Welcome, Joe. Anything you'd like to quickly say before I jump into the icebreakers?
Well, it's good to be with you, man. Always good to be with you. I tease Paul all the time. I say we get to see Black Moses all the time. I love Paul's beard and stuff like that. It's good.
Joe knew me before I had this beard, so that's why he said most people who see me that has not seen the beard before me, they sort of know me as Moses. Joe knows me before Moses, but Joe, let me fire off a few fun questions with you. What was
Sure.
the moment from the gala that made you say, "Wow, this is actually going to work"?
When I saw all of the sponsors scrolling down on the screens, on the big screens in the gala, I was like, yeah, it's on now. It's on now. And that for me was that was a powerful moment. I say this is real, and the possibilities of this are incredible.
Fantastic. Now let me shoot off a few quick rapid fire, then we'll jump right into a
Sure.
poll. What's your favorite hymn that fuels your leadership?
Lead me, guide me. That hymn always gets to me. Lead me, guide me along the way. For if you lead me, I cannot stray. I'm Yeah, it takes me in every time.
All right, I'm not mad at you. Um, uh, my favorite is I think I can't remember who sang it, but it's it's not yours. This fight is not yours.
Battle is not yours.
Battle is not yours. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
yeah. Oh
that's
yeah.
everything. And Amazing Grace, of course. You can't. Amazing Grace is at almost everybody's song. And then, what leadership book should every church or nonprofit leader read? Would you suggest?
You know, I had 2.
Please.
The first is this. three-part series of children's books, uh,
Oh,
ironically, by Kobe Yamada. Uh,
okay. Write
he
that
writes
down.
a trilogy. What do you do with an idea? What do you do with a problem? And what do you do with a chance?
Okay,
They're very short children's books, but they spark creativity, they spark inspiration, and they really create an opportunity for a leader to become very visionary. And so I really love those books and use them a lot. And then the leadership book that I really lean on a lot is Leadership and Self-Deception. And that was a book written by the Arbinger Institute. And it really looks at how can leaders really emerge from being trapped in a box, and how can we do leadership that shifts from blaming to taking responsibility, to building authentic and collaborative teams, and how can we go about creating a culture of trust and accountability. And that's huge in leadership, as you know all too well.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And that was definitely tested during the gala. And we'll get
Yeah.
into that, but
Yeah.
that was definitely something that we had to approach. And then what's one thing you'll do different for next year's gala?
Make sure I have extra time.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this.
Yeah,
That
and we'll get
that
into
30
that.
days
So
killed
everybody,
us.
that was something that was taken from us, and
Right,
but
right,
that was
right.
interesting. And who would be a dinner guest? Your if you had a choice to have dinner with anybody other than Madeline, who would you have dinner with, living or past?
Man, I would love to have dinner with August Wilson,
Oh wow,
the playwright from
yeah,
Pittsburgh.
I know exactly what this
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would number one, he grew up a mile down the street, not even a mile, maybe a half a mile down the street from where my mother grew up, in the Hill District of Pittsburgh.
Hmm.
And so many of his plays speak to memories I have in my childhood,
Hmm.
speak to family realities, and I would just love to just sit with him, particularly in the today, and just kind of say, how would you go about creating plays today? He's
Yeah.
fascinating
I
character.
love that. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
And then favorite post-event comfort food. After the event, what did you eat to relax yourself? I know you had a glass of red wine, but I mean,
Yeah,
what did
yeah.
you to relax yourself? What's your favorite comfort food?
Chocolate chip ice cream
Oh wow.
with some blackberries.
Oh wow. I was gonna say, have you? I was gonna ask you, have you tried it with strawberries?
Yeah,
That's all right, my brother. That's what's
yeah.
up. That's what's up. Okay, well, thank you, Joe, for that. Just a little icebreaker. Let's go ahead and jump into why everybody is here. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick poll because we want to figure out what everyone's pain points are, so we can tailor the talk into what you guys are most interested in. So take a look at this list. It says, "What are your biggest challenges when planning a gala or fundraising event?" And Joe, we're going to have to fill it out as well. So just go ahead and pick one and then
Okay.
submit it. And then Alex, our tech, he will let us know when it's done and we'll come back and look at the results. So let me go ahead and let me see what would be. I know exactly which one mine is. And then we'll come back to this in a few moments. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, Joe. So understanding fundraising goals and structure. So this is sort of a big one. How did you and me develop the overall strategy for the gala? How did that come about?
Well, I thought you were extremely instrumental, Paul, in helping us, first of all, think about the three budget areas, which were really mission and ministry areas that we felt we needed to focus on, that we felt from a vision and mission point of view. These were the budget areas where the church was really heading in community,
Mhm.
and where we needed the greatest funding support. And so you were very clear, even drilled down with us, that what the money we're raising is not for extra programs, right? It's not for something new.
Right.
It's for something that we're doing now, and we see that this is where we're heading missionally, uh,
Right.
and we need greater funding support. I thought that that was excellent because once we were able to identify that, and I know we'll talk about this, once we were able to identify that, that then helped us build cases for support, um, which is so critical, and that really became the foundation for how we built everything else um, in preparation for the gala.
And agreed. And the point that Joe's making, which I really want to highlight and double down on a little bit, is when you're having an event, it needs the funds need to be very well articulated to individuals of where the money is going. A lot of times you guys you'll go to an event, you'll see a fundraising event, and you really don't know where the money is going. It's just they're raising money. What Joe and I did is we had three particular areas that we were focused on, which were the areas that we focused on at the beginning of the year. So it wasn't anything new. All the
Right.
people that came, they knew about that we were raising money. So this was flowing right into the mission of Emory. So it's very important that when you're having a special event or a gala, that the funds that you're raising, you articulate it, and it's something that you've been sort of focused on throughout the year. So just remember that.
And it was very clear for us throughout, as you stated, we were focusing on affordable housing through the Beacon Center, which you see in the background. We were focusing on food insecurity and on youth development, and so even ministry wise and worship wise, and making announcements throughout the congregation of what we were seeking to do, we were able to tailor it to these three things, which allowed people to rally around those three things.
Exactly. Exactly. The next question I'd like to ask you is why did you decide a gala was the right format for Emory at this moment?
Well, number one, our folk love to dress up, right? Our folk love to dress up and they love to go out and have a good time. And so a gala idea came up immediately amongst our development team, and we hadn't done one in a long time. We hadn't done one in like 15 to 20 years prior to that, which was the only one we had done as a church, and people remembered it. And so folk were like, well, let's do a gala. And it allowed us to honor people. It allowed us to recognize people, and it became a great target and base for us to really push the whole fundraising effort.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. Did I cut you off, Joe? Were you gonna say
No,
something
no,
else?
no. We're
But
good.
the one thing that I want to add to that is, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of events. In fact, I don't like them. But and the reason that one day I'll tell you guys why I don't like them. I'm sort of a big picture guy, and events force you to be very detailed, and so it goes against my grain. But the one point that I want to make is we didn't do it to raise money either. I mean, we did it to raise money, but we didn't do it to raise money. And what do we mean by that? We did it primarily for the splash. And by the way, we were raising money because
Right.
we have another apparatus to be raising money for the three missions that we're focusing on, which is food insecurities, youth programs, and the Beacon Center, which is housing and things like that. But we did the gala because we wanted to make a big splash. We wanted everybody to know, hey, this is what we're working on. And then by the way, we raised $125,000 on top of it. So if fundraising is your big need, events are not the way to raise money. The way to raise money is individuals going and asking individuals. Joe, is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, I just want to emphasize, essentially, you're talking about building a ground game,
Exactly.
and that's what um, our time working with you has been so effective in building an effective ground game.
Exactly.
You do that, and then the galas are like ice cream,
Right. It's an
after
add-on.
the event. They're they're the cherry on top of the pudding. Um, it's the ground game that gets you where you need to go.
Exactly. Exactly. So really everyone think about that. Fundraising is, I mean, you should raise some money, but there's far easier ways to raise money, as well as the gala cost us about $50,000 to put it on. So it's very expensive. It's probably the most expensive way to raise money. So you don't go into a gala or a special event with the focus of raising money. You go in there for splash to get new donors. And by the way, let's raise some money. So just keep that in mind. And then, what were some of the planning milestones you remember hitting together? Like, when did we hit something? You're like, oh, okay, that's great. Okay, what like milestones that we hit?
Well, the key one for us was seeing our annual budget increase,
Yeah,
in a year, and even in the course of that year, seeing our giving just go up exponentially bit by bit throughout that entire year, which for us was huge because the year before we started our relationship with you together, we had lost money, and fundraising for us was huge. Not just doing fundraising events or just doing fundraisers as a, we need to raise money here, we need to do this, that, but we wanted to establish, and we continue to desire to establish an internal DNA, if I can put it that way, of fundraising, where our congregation literally is known and affirms, appreciates, and celebrates a spirit of generosity and of being generous. I was talking Sunday about being demonstrative with our generosity.
hmm.
And as we're able to lay a foundation for that, as we're able to develop a culture of giving and a culture of generosity, a culture of abundance and not scarcity, that's
Yeah,
what's going to sustain us over the
yeah,
year. And so we're seeking to build that. And so that stood out for me as we
yeah,
began working with you.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So that's a good one, Joe. Mine was getting the venue. Like I was, okay, we got the venue. I'm like, okay, that's good. Then another one was, okay, we got our honored guest. That's a big thing. So if you
that's a
guys are
big,
gonna
that was, yeah,
make, that's another thing. If you guys are putting on a gala, make sure you have at least one or two guests that you're going to be honored. And by the way, you need to be asking them for money. They need to be supporting you. You're honoring them for their past work, but you're asking them for new money to be supporting whatever your initiatives are. So we want to honor two people, and we actually memorialized two people. And so those were good milestones because those people agreed to do it. We actually had the mayor of DC was honored and came to our event. Mayor Muriel
Bowser.
Bowser,
Yep.
probably the most famous mayor in the country. So it was this was a we were moving some rocks here, and so these milestones really let us know, okay, this is happening. We're moving forward. So that was one of my really big milestones.
And for me, a milestone within the gala, as you're speaking to, was the mayor staying the entire time.
Yeah, that's which was not normal. Usually they pop in or they
Right,
send somebody. They actually
right.
will send their chief of staff, have something they read off, give you a
Yep,
proclamation, and
yep,
bounce. She
yep.
came and brought her daughter and stayed the whole time.
The whole time with her staff
Yeah.
during the week in which she solidified the Washington Commanders football team returning to the District of Columbia. So
Yeah,
it
so
was a
it was a
huge
whole
week.
thing was busy. I mean,
It was.
we weren't sure if she was going to be there, but she came and showed. So we hit some pretty big milestones. But this is nothing you all can't do. Every one of you guys can do the same thing. You just prepare. You send things out early. You reach out to them. You let them know why you're honoring them. They usually have a lot of guidelines. The loops and hoops we had to jump through was ridiculous, but we got it done. But it wasn't her fault or anything. It's just those are the rules that we. But you got to go through those rules and get those things done.
And I think it's important to say too, in planning the gala and as we did it in partnership with you, um, we continue to get comments back from the mayor's office that they've gone to galas and they go to galas all the time in community, that the one we put on was probably the best one that they've been to all year long,
Yeah, she said that.
and that it was highly professional, very well run. And that to me is a milestone because what it says is if and when we do another one, because we're going to do
Right.
another one annually, but um, that gives us the kind of credibility to be able to
Correct.
invite different people and have a lot of flexibility with how we shape the next one.
Correct. Joe's absolutely correct. And then everyone, this is not a nonprofit fundraising management commercial. So I don't want you to feel like we're pushing our services. What
Right.
I want you to understand is if you've never done this, you need to bring someone in to help you do this. If you've never done it, because I'm telling you, there are a lot of moving parts, there are a lot of meetings, there are a lot of things that have to take place. And if you've not done that, this is not like throwing a party. I wish it was, but it's not. It's a lot of things that have to go, in place and work out. So just make sure. Again, this is not a commercial for us. This is a commercial for you doing this, but make sure you do it and do it with help.
And I'm glad to hear you say that, Paul, because our congregation, this was not our first rodeo with regards to fundraising.
Right,
Obviously, building a $60 million project, we had several capital campaigns and other
right,
stewardship efforts, and so our folks were familiar with that.
right,
But we really needed, again, as I was saying, we really needed to develop a culture, a
right,
DNA within our congregation of fundraising and
right.
of generosity at another level. And
Yeah.
this has been very powerful for us.
Yeah, it was funny too because Joe, I'm sure Joe remembers this. Right after the event, I mean, it was a smash. It was a success. And right afterwards, and we won't we won't even go into. I'll go into some of the things that went wrong, but nobody knew about it. Only we knew about it. But
Right.
Joe was like, "Well, what are we going to do next? Like, what's happening next? What's happening next week?" Because we were on such a
Tight schedule.
momentum high
Yep.
because of the event, which is what it's for. The money was great, but it was for to build momentum for what Emory is doing in the community. That is what an event for
Yep.
is for. Any fundraising that you bring in extra, that's fantastic. So just keep that in mind. Alex, can we put up the poll results so we can sort of see what people are thinking? Exactly. That's exactly what I thought. I knew that was the one that I selected as well.
Me too.
Building a sponsorship
Me
list,
too.
getting people to give, um, getting people to attend. But the big one too are getting people to give and building a sponsorship list. And so we'll focus on that as we move forward. In fact, let's go. The next one is a sponsorship list, and so let's just go right into that. That's a perfect time. We assume that was going to be your pain points. So, Joe, how did you and our team approach sponsors? But let's back up. How did we develop a sponsorship list? How did we do that?
So big for us was pulling our development team together.
Ah, exactly.
Okay. Pulling our
Yeah. And so
development
to
team
explain what
together.
that is. So tell them what that is.
So, typically when you're doing a fundraising effort like this, you're thinking about, well, let me pull my finance committee together and have them just work this out. Well, for fundraising, you may not necessarily have some of the key people who can actually bring powerful sponsors into the mix uh, to be a part of this on your finance team. You may have to go outside. You probably will have to go outside of your finance team to draw people in who would be committed to something like this. And so
Mhm.
that's what we did first and foremost. We pulled a small group of people from the finance team onto this development team, but then we added people
Yes.
who we knew in the congregation had influence in the community, uh, who knew people that with a phone call they could invite to be sponsors, or they knew people who knew people
Right.
with a phone call could invite people to be sponsors, which really thrust us as a development team and as a congregation further into what I like to call the three sectors that make up every community: the private sector, government sector, and public sector. It was
Hmm.
like, who do we know? Who do we work with? Who have we worked with already on our building project,
Hmm.
in other community efforts that we've done? Who have we worked with who sees our vision, who affirms our vision, and who would want to give to our vision? And so that really pushed us. It stretched us to really begin identifying, who are the people beyond those in our congregations who are big tithes or tithers and offerers within the congregation. Who are those outside? Who are those
Hmm.
at different churches? Who are those in corporations, in foundations, in
Hmm.
government entities or agencies, or who are private philanthropists or the like, who would really give to this. And
Yeah.
so we began building our sponsor list around that, and that really stretched us.
Yeah, yeah, because the and what I want the audience, bless you, Joe. What I want the audience to understand, the
Like,
participants, is you have to take the time to sit down in a room
mhm,
or on Zoom as we did, because I'm in LA and Joe's in DC. So we're on Zoom with the group and we're like, okay, well, who do you know? And so we start going down through the list. How much should we ask them for? Who should ask them? And then what particular um, mission are they interested in? Is it youth? Is it food insecurities, or is
right,
it affordable housing,
right,
employment, and all those things? And that's what we did. So when we approached individuals, foundations, and corporations, we had something to offer them. It wasn't just giving money to a gala, it was giving money to a ministry that's
right.
actually doing something in the community. The gala was just highlighting it. And they
Exactly.
love that. I mean, Joe can tell you our biggest lead gift was massive. I mean, we were like, tell him, Joe, how much?
Well, we were able to raise 25,000 from the Walmart Foundation.
Yeah,
And that was huge.
yeah,
But we had people within the congregation who had key people and had key relationships with people in Walmart. And some
yeah,
people might say, well, Walmart, I don't want, but you've got to identify who the partners are in your community. You see the church and the Beacon Center behind me. Well, right across the street from me is a Walmart.
yeah,
Okay, so Walmart is a key community player within our community, our immediate community. And so people like corporations like this and other groups like this, you pull into the vision and mission.
yeah.
Uh, as you stated, the three areas that we were funding around. So you're identifying sponsors who have a self-interest and who want to be a part of a transformational effort that can support those particular mission areas that you're focusing.
That's exactly it. And it's not, and this committee, as we met probably once a week. Before that, it was once a month. As we got closer, once every 2 weeks, and then it was once a week the
Yeah.
last couple months.
And it and
But
it 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 it's I just want to emphasize it
sure.
stretches us
Oh yeah, it was
and it
work. I mean, it
and
was.
it stretches us in particular because um, in a good way, because what it allows you to do is to really identify those leaders within your congregation who are willing to put their own accountability on the line and their own relationships on the line, which is huge
Yeah,
because people don't want to look bad.
exactly.
They don't want to look bad, and they don't want to bring their major contacts into something that is not tight.
Yes.
And so this afforded the opportunity for us to really buckle down and get serious about these three areas, as well as who potential partners and sponsors would be to come alongside of us and join in this collective effort.
And Joe just killed a point right now. I mean, that's a big point, because and to prepare for that, guess what? We put together an annual report. We do an
Right.
annual report every year. guess what? We do a newsletter focused on fundraising every month. Guess
Yeah,
what? We do a monthly mailer that comes out. Is a letter from Joe to all the congregants, letting them know that he appreciates their support. And then we also do a quarterly thank you letter that goes out to every congregate that gives to. So they now know, they're seeing all this process, they're seeing what we're doing, and they know about the case for support in the three areas that we raise the money for.
yep,
So there was no way for them to go back to Joe and say, hey, we don't know what you're doing, we're not really sure about what. They know that we are tight as a drum because they've seen all of the processes that we've been throughout the year. So
yep.
this was, go ahead, Joe. I mean, this is how we
No,
rocked it.
you're right on point, Paul. And um, I think one of the big transformational pieces for us in what we're talking about as well was the power of us having one-on-one meetings with everyone in the congregation. Um, Myself, my associate pastor at the time, Sharon Milton, uh, just calling and meeting with members just to say thank you.
Yeah. The thank you tour. Yeah.
Right. And how so often we don't even thank our congregants for their giving. And they are our major donors, in addition to the sponsors in the community who want to sponsor our
Yeah.
efforts. But just saying thank you
Yeah.
and to congregants, but in the context of sponsors,
Yeah.
when we contacted the two individuals who we, as a development team, wanted to thank Mayor Bowser for all of her help and support with our affordable housing projects, and Gene Herman, who had really been instrumental in his Jewish synagogue in volunteering and supporting our transitional housing efforts that led to the Beacon Center.
Mhm.
When we contacted them, and even our two posthumous members who meant so much to us, Filbert Benjamin and Henry Stewart, and contacting their families, we said, "Hey, we just want to say thank you.
Mhm.
We want to say thank you. We want to have a time, a public time where we acknowledge and thank you."
Who's going to say no to that?
Who's going to say no to that? Because rarely does anybody stop and say to us, thank you for your giving.
Hmm.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so I remember going to one of our top givers. And we're a working class congregation primarily, sprinkled with people who work professional careers and the like. And I,
Hmm.
I went to one of our top givers, and I'll never forget him because one time, I was talking about needs in the church and all that at a finance committee meeting, and he was on the finance committee meeting, was just kind of new to the church, et cetera, but believed in our vision and mission from the start. And he came out of the meeting and he said, I need to give you this. He wrote a $20,000 check
Yeah.
at the meeting. I'm like, what? But
Yeah.
but when I went to his house to talk to he and his wife, they were nervous and wondering, what is the pastor going to ask us to do now? Because we're already doing too much. Our capacity level is off the chain.
Yeah.
And all I did was take the annual report,
Yeah.
okay, to
Yeah.
their house and put it in their hands. And I said to them, all I wanted to do was take time to thank y'all,
Yeah.
to thank you for your giving, thank you for your sacrifice of time, and how much we appreciate everything you've done. And the relief that came over them,
Yeah.
but then the excitement
Yeah.
of being a part of something that can transform lives just increased
Yeah,
exponentially.
it's something bigger than themselves that they can be
Right,
a part of.
right,
And it's just
right.
like it's an amazing, and Joe's hitting on a point. Whenever we work with a church or a nonprofit, black church or a nonprofit, the very first thing we do is we ask, the leader, when is the last time you thanked individuals individually? Because generally, many of the people on this call, you all thank people in a group. Like you'll come on Sunday and say, thank you guys, we did this. But Joe is talking about taking an individual or couple out and saying thank you.
Yes.
That just doesn't happen. And so,
Doesn't.
except at Emory, that's how we roll now. And that just transforms everything and sets everything up because it's gratitude. Joe's
Yeah.
always talking about gratitude, and
Yeah.
that's what this is all about.
Yep.
So make sure you're setting up your galas, your special events with a runway of annual reports. Put together an annual report, then, or maybe just a impact report, something, a one pager. But just make sure that you're laying the foundation for what it is you're doing. Because
And
if you really want to make a splash, you really want to have things set up so people feel generous and they feel like they want to support you.
and we had not done that. We
Yeah,
had done that for the longest of time,
yeah,
um, where we actually just showed people. I mean, it's one thing to do it in a church council meeting or in your church board meeting, but to be able to do it authentically and transparently with the entire congregation with a document that looks good.
yeah,
It looks professionally done. People are like, huh? This is wow, wow, wow.
yeah,
Really?
yeah,
We're doing it? Wow, okay. Well, this looks good. This is where my money's been going.
yeah,
This is what my money's been going to.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Well, I've seen this, I hear it, but now I see it tangibly in writing.
yeah.
Yeah, how can I support more?
Yeah, and my favorite thing, Joe, was I think a year ago, or maybe two, when we did the first annual report, and we were in the red. And I think we were in the
Yes,
red like maybe 60,000 or something like that.
yes,
And
yep.
Joe called me. He's like, "Hey, man, we're in the red. Are you sure we want to put this
Right,
out there?" And I said to Joe, I said, "Joe, we chose to be in the red.
Yep,
We decided we wanted to be in the red because we wanted to take care of food insecurities. We wanted to take care of people that needed to be, needed housing.
yep,
You chose that, Joe. You
yep,
need to let people know we put that out there. People
yep,
were like, oh, wow.
yep.
Like it wasn't, that was so transformative.
People were seeing a congregation that the perception may be that we are wealthy, but the reality was that we've been taking our resources and trying to help people in marginalized and disenfranchised conditions and situations, and that requires a lot.
Yes.
That requires a lot. It requires a huge sacrifice of which our church knows about because we have sacrificed and continue. But sacrifice requires generosity,
Yes.
which is undergirded in love. And
Yeah.
so when you can show that to people tangibly in a number of ways, but also in how you are actually planning your stewardship and your fundraising efforts, man, that just people want, as you said earlier, Paul, people
Yeah.
want to give to something
They want to be
bigger.
a part of that. Yeah, they want to
They
be.
want
They
to
want
be
to
a
be.
part of it.
And the
Yeah.
other thing too is now we got to come, you guys. Now we got to come up with a new story because now Joe's going to be in the black, and so we got to figure out what we're going to say about that. So,
Right.
for sponsorships, the next thing is so now we talked about how we sort of put together the list. How did we approach them for the sponsorships for the gala?
We took we gathered our development team, and those persons who had the key relationships with those sponsors went to those sponsors one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did was to break down the sponsorship levels,
Mm-hmm.
um, which which I must confess was new to me, particularly when I had some people I know, they were teasing and say, "Man, you want me to be a $50,000?"
Yeah. Yeah.
But we broke it down 50,000, 25,
25. Yeah.
10, 5,
Yeah.
2,500. And we did that because we decided as a development team that those were the levels that we thought that the people that we'd be working with from a sponsorship point of view could in fact be stretched toward giving. or
Yeah.
that they would stretch themselves toward giving those. And so that's where we set our level. Depending on your congregation, it might be higher,
Yeah.
okay, or it might be a little lower, but for us, it was there. And we decided that those people who had the relationships would be the ones who would go one-on-one first to each sponsor because
Yeah.
people give because of relationship.
Mhm.
Okay. And we often take that for granted. And we often don't invest the time in developing relationships. And you've got to develop relationships in order to raise money.
Mhm.
People tend to give to you. They give to a cause that they believe in and that they're invested in. But that usually happens because there's somebody that they know who they believe
Yeah.
or that they trust who is engaged in what they want to get engaged in.
Yes.
So so that's how we did it, and
Mhm.
it produced. I think it blew our minds, and it's
Yeah.
blowing our minds
Yeah.
with um, with what has transpired.
And Joe, let me ask you a question. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
How did you know what to say?
well, we prepared scripts. Um,
Exactly.
I mean, we we prepared we prepared scripts for everything,
Yes.
and I mean down to the T. I mean, it was as though, we reenacted a one-on-one relational meeting, and we
Exactly.
reenacted the scenarios of how people would respond, and we reenacted that, had a sheet, had the actual outline of what a potential interview might go like, which gave you a base by which even to improvise as you needed to improvise from. But
Yeah.
you didn't go in blind. You went in prepared, because when you're going in to ask money for money, or to ask somebody for money, you need to go prepared.
Yeah.
You need to go in prayed up, but you also need to go in having done your homework to be able to answer the questions that those who are looking to sponsor what you're doing are going to have before they actually give you a gift.
Exactly. Exactly. That's such a good point.
Yeah, so
The
we were prepared.
Yeah.
Every sponsorship meeting we were
Yeah.
prepared for, and you got to do that kind of homework. And NFM has been incredibly helpful to us with developing that skill.
Thanks. Thank you, Joe. And then let me ask you, regarding so we raised $125,000. Oh, the one point I want to make before we move to the next one is the sponsorship levels. We felt like we could get a $25,000 gift. That was what we thought was our highest gift that we would
Yep.
get. So why would we have 50? We have 50 because in case somebody wants to give more than our top, we have that there. So we had the 50 there. We
Yep.
didn't put 100,000 up because then that would be too much, and it would make, if the stretch is 25, we added 50. But if we put 75 or 100, that's just too much, and it's too much. It's fantasy. So we
Yeah.
wanted to make it reality. So we wanted to say, well, we think we can get 25, but let's put 50. So remember that whatever you think your top gift is, go one level above in case somebody wants to come in at that level. That's why we laid
Yeah.
it out that way.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So let's get to the program. So the night of the event, how did the night of the event go? What do you think about that?
It was fabulous. I mean, the energy in the room. I was excited because we had planned for 200, right? And
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we got to get to
we,
that point too.
we had
Yeah,
planned for 200, but like a week and a half before the event, we only had 100 people, and we're
yeah,
like, how how we going?
yeah,
What we gonna do? And then, you know, 2 days before the event, we got to
yeah,
turn people away.
yeah,
Like, whoa, and so that whole preparation piece,
yeah.
stressful, and
Very.
I've learned and am learning that you gotta have the faith to step into that space and
Yeah.
to take the risk and to take the chance, or else you can't see
Yeah.
of overflow that will come.
Yeah.
But that night when 200 folk just came pouring into the room, looking good, excited about the night, um, we planned with NFM a very tight gala, so there wasn't any wasted time.
Yeah.
It wasn't rushed, but it wasn't
Hmm.
wasted. It was very orderly. It went very smooth.
We called a couple audibles. I mean, we
All
there.
some audibles. I mean,
Yeah.
our AV person doesn't show up, right?
Yeah.
And Paul's doing AV. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't do, but he was pressed into service. The food was slow for some
Right.
reason, which blew all of us away. We're like, well, why is this food not being served on
Yeah.
time? You know, but we got around that part of
Yeah.
it. Um, the timing of when the mayor was going to come and how we would play that out in terms of who we recognize
Yeah.
first. We had a top-notch MC that night, Tracy Wilkins, who's
Oh yeah.
one of our local news investigative reporters. She was off the chain.
Oh, fantastic.
In fact, Paul, I just got another note from her
Good.
thanking us for the basket that we sent to her, uh,
Yeah.
recognizing her, telling me that she and her family are going to show up in church one Sunday this
Yeah, yeah.
and
That's the
visit.
one thing, Joe. For everybody, we thanked everybody that came. Joe, when we
Yes,
got back, Joe had a bunch of, cards on his desk, and he had to fill
yes,
out those handwritten, sent those out to a bunch of individuals that we needed to thank. And Tracy was one of them. The mayor was one of them.
yeah.
And you really want to follow up, with the event in a thank you
And
letter. But I want to dig. Go ahead, Joe.
wait,
Sorry.
no,
Go
I'm just
ahead.
sayan we had great music.
Oh, fantastic
The
music.
band was off the chain.
Yeah, yeah,
People had a good time, and when you can organize an event where people have a good time
yeah,
and give, come on,
yeah.
people want to do that. They want to do that. They want to be, as we've said, they want to be something a part of something bigger than
Bigger
themselves.
than themselves. And I want to go over something important that you touched on, Joe, and that is sponsorships versus tickets versus tables. This
Yeah,
is really important. So this is important. So what we did was most people are used to selling tickets for an event. And we're like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. I said, we are focusing on sponsorship.
right.
And Joe and I got a lot of pushback. People were like, well, what are you talking about?
Oh, man.
Sponsorships. And so we said, no, this is the way we're going to go. And then we will, whatever's left, we'll give to the congregation or whatever. And so what Joe is alluding to was going into the night, we raised already 100 and something, like 11,000 or something, like, so we hit our number. We knew we were going to hit our number. So all we were worried about by the time the event was coming around was to have a good event. We
Yes,
weren't worried about raising money. Do you
right,
understand what that means?
right.
So that's I want the audience to understand, when you focus on sponsorship giving levels, what happens? Walmart didn't show up. You
Didn't
think
show up.
Walmart's going to show up? They're not showing up. They might, but I mean, they didn't. So we had all these extra tables and seats. So what did Joe and his team do? They gave them away to the congregation
Yep,
and to other individuals we wanted to. We were chilling,
yep,
mob deep, the
yep.
night of the event because we raised our money. Go ahead, Joe.
We had raised the money, which is why doing this around sponsorships is so critical. Because our congregation was like, well, when are we going to sell tickets? And then when we announced that we were selling tickets, tickets were $250.
Yeah,
And this was $250 that we were asking
yeah.
at the time where um,
This is DC.
president the president is
Yeah,
laying off federal workers left and right, and cutbacks are happening here and there, and the city is going through turmoil. and we're asking congregants for $250 a ticket, and they're like, well, "Why is this so high?
Yeah.
So why don't you want us?" And we're like, "The focus is on sponsorships.
Yeah, it's a fundraiser.
It's a fundraiser. We're trying
Yeah.
to get sponsors."
Yeah.
So, and then when we lost the 30 days because
Oh
of
yeah.
of the venue, we've got invitations going out
Like a week
a
before.
week before
Yeah.
the event, and folk are calling saying, why are you asking me for this amount of money and you're only giving me a week to do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. We got pushed into a corner because the venue took 30 days from, they made us take the event 30 days before we were prepared to take it.
but what transpired in all of that is that because we had those three missional areas laid
Right.
out, communicated, and we organized around them,
Yeah.
you had the folks who really, really were committed and
Yeah.
desirous to give to those. They gave anyhow.
Yeah.
They
They
gave
did.
anyhow. And then some even bought tickets and gave them to
Gave the
others who
tickets
couldn't
away.
afford
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
And so you just had this energy that was generated from the gala. And then after the gala, people were given the opportunity still to give
Yeah.
and that's our next level
Yeah.
of fundraising now.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is, so really, so when you're putting on these galas, make sure you focus on sponsorships, and then tables, then tickets. So
Yes.
that's kind of how you do it, not the other way around. The other way around is easier, but not as effective.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, so when you're doing sponsorships, you're going to end up with pledges. So you're gonna, because people are not gonna just write a check for $10,000. They're gonna say, I'm gonna give you, 2,500 here, 20, or whatever. So you're gonna have pledges. So you're gonna have an open amount that's at the end of the gala. So what Joe and I, we've raised for the gala, we raised $100,000 cash. We still have $25,000 out in pledges.
Yep.
And so we meet once a week. We have a meeting tomorrow. And so we get on the phone and we go, when's the last time you talked to this person? Blah, blah, blah. And the money's coming in. But you have to keep working on the pledges until they all come in. And we'll probably end up getting a 90, 95%, 100% pledge count. So we will end up with $125,000. So go ahead,
And,
Joe.
and to your point that you've been stressing to us, you've got to do this work immediately after the gala.
Yeah,
You can't allow time to go by, because the more time you allow to go by, people will not give.
exactly.
So you got to follow up on people's commitments right away in a very timely.
Exactly. And continuously until you receive it. Yeah. Yeah. So just keep that all in mind. But this is really, I've been doing this for about 30 years, and this, what Emery put together, is the best way to do it. I mean, and Joe didn't mention there was a flood the night in the hotel. There was a
Oh my goodness.
flood. The service was really slow, but we had a run a show that we had put together, so we knew when something was slow. We
Yep.
knew, when the drinks are. So we went right up to the service manager and said, this table's supposed to be cleared 10 minutes ago. What's going on? And they're like, oh well, what they're talking back with us, well, I'm like, no, get these tables cleared now. And so we were prepared for everything. There
Everything.
was nothing when the AV didn't show up. We didn't like it, but we were prepared.
Yep. Yep.
We were prepared, and so that's what you have to be. So there were so many mistakes the night up, but nobody saw it because Joe's team and my team, we were prepared. So just make sure, as Joe was saying before, make sure that you have a runner's show. The day before, we went through the whole thing. We went through the
Oh,
whole, from top to
all
bottom,
all the way up to the
several
event.
times. several times so we know what's happening, what's going to be happening here, table's going to be cleared here, blah, blah, blah. So you just want to make sure. So the night of the event, people, and you know what? It wasn't a special gala. I've been to galas where, things are special. People are flying in on, parachutes and all sorts of celebrities and whatever. This was not that. This was just clean, tight, and had a mission, and people loved it.
And I just want to emphasize again, Paul, that this is doable for all of us.
Everybody can
It
do
is
it.
doable. It is doable. Um, I you hear the word gala, and sometimes it can be intimidating because when you think about gala, you think about these huge
Yeah,
financial events, and it's like I don't have all this money to just,
yeah,
you know. But what we've learned in all of this is that with tight organization and planning, that even the smallest of churches can do this. It's doable. It's just a matter of really um, pulling the assets of your congregation together and maximizing those assets to draw other assets that they have in the
exactly.
community and making it happen. It's
Yeah,
so
and
doable.
it is, and then don't, and the other thing too, Joe, is, which is what you're really good at, is don't don't look at this as a one time sort
Right.
of a thing. This is not, you don't meet these people and then they. I mean, where were you yesterday, Joe? Where were you yesterday?
I met with one of the executives of Walmart just to say
It,
thank you, just to say thank you for giving us a gift.
family, we're not making this stuff up. So I'm just telling you that
I'm serious.
this was just the beginning of
Yes.
Walmart. They have no idea what we have planned for them. And so this is how we're doing it. So a gala is sometimes the first time you're meeting an organization or individual. That's just the first step. We're
Yeah.
starting a long-term relationship with all these people. Joe didn't know Tracy before. Our Joe, and when we got back, I said, Joe, I need you to write her a letter. Joe writes her a letter. She's sending him a text. We're establishing relationships from
Ongoing
this. We
relationship.
only raised $125,000. We're going to turn that into 500,000, a million over the years because these are relationships that we are building.
Yep. And you'd be surprised how people in corporations and others who we're building relationships with are starving for a relationship in community
Exactly.
because so often they live in silos. And when they find a church, a nonprofit, reaching out from where they are to say, "Hey, we want to partner and walk with you in this," it just doesn't happen that often.
Exactly.
It doesn't happen. And when they find one and they see that you're credible and that you're serious, that you hold yourself accountable, and that you're willing to take risks to improve the lives of people, man, they're like
Oh man, they're starving, and they
they're
they
starving.
came to the feet. Joe, I'm
Yeah,
gonna cut you off right now because I
sure.
really want, we never even asked the audience if they had any questions.
Oh man.
So this is the problem when you get brothers together; they just talk forever. So please, if you guys have a few more moments, Joe, stay on. Please, put a bunch of questions in the chat and we will answer them. So sorry, but yeah, if you have any questions, make sure you put them in there because we're here to answer them. Joel, stay on for a little bit more, at least five or
Sure.
10 more minutes if
But not a
needed,
problem at all.
and because we really want you guys to partake in this. But the one thing that I will say is that make sure that you get help with this, that you or you have a volunteer that has done this, because there is so many moving pieces to this that if you've never done this before, it's going to be extremely difficult. You can't read a book to do this. This has to be something on someone on your team has to have done this before because man, it's just a lot of moving parts. Okay, we do have some questions. So the first one is for from Stephen Handy. What? Oh, it's Steven.
Bishop Handy, Bishop
My
Handy.
brother. What's
Good to
going
see you, brother.
on?
Bishop
It's a good
Handy.
question. He's got a great question. Was the gala under the church or the nonprofit? I'll let Joe answer that one. It's a complicated answer, actually.
Stephen, it's good to hear from you. It's an excellent question. We did it under the church, but we did it with the nonprofits um, support and position, and the nonprofit joining us, because in our situation, um, we're separate entities, but we're chasing a common vision and mission. And so the three areas where we have promoted cases for support, um, two of those areas are more church based. One of those areas is more nonprofit based,
Mm-hmm.
but we did the fundraising through the church.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and if you put a question in there, stay on the line. We will answer every question that comes through. Joe hit that's the perfect question for Bishop Handy, and then also the answer is great because what
Hey,
we
Paul,
did.
Paul, let me
Yes,
correct you. I am not a bishop. Don't pay attention to Joe.
I
He'll get you in trouble.
Joe, what the heck are you doing, Joe?
I'm
Joe, you get it, and
prophesying. I'm
I know
prophesying.
Steven.
That's my
I
guy,
know
though. That's
Steven
my
too.
guy. That's my
I
mentor.
thought you got
But
promoted.
I stand corrected here, so just let that go.
But the big point overall is we were whatever the sponsor needed us to be. So if the sponsor wanted to give to the church, we could accept it through the church. The sponsor wanted to give through the nonprofit, that's what we did. So
Yep.
we use both.
Yep.
The
Because
next one is
some are
how did you pay for the gala?
we paid for the gala. We budgeted for it.
Yeah, we
And
budgeted
we
for it at the beginning of the year.
and we budgeted for it at the beginning of the year, and we took a risk.
Yeah, we did. We definitely did.
But we
And
knew we needed to take the risk in order to be positioned for a great reward. And so sometimes you've got to take risks by faith, and you can't see what the end's going to be, but you believe that if you put the work in, a powerful end will come.
that's well said, Joe. And then the other thing too, Charlotte, is we were very we paid it since I've been doing this for a minute. We paid attention to the contract, and they were all give us 50% up front, and then 2 months into it, give us another 50. We're like, we're not doing that. We're like, we'll give you, I don't know what it was, 20% up front, and then we'll give you another I don't know,
Yep.
40% later on. And on the last night, we will give you the final check of something something. And that's kind of so they'll tell you what they want you to do. You tell them what you wanted to do, and you find some sort of happy medium. So we didn't have to come up with 40 or 50,000. I can't remember what the number was up front. We spread it out throughout the year to where it was very palatable for Emory to pay for this. Because
Yeah.
by the time we really started having to pay for it, guess what? The sponsorships were coming in.
Yep. Yep.
So it was almost like it was paying for itself as it was happening.
Yep.
So be thinking about how you're asking for the money, when you're asking for the money, and looking at the contract very closely and making sure you're paying the way you want to pay because they'll tell you anything. You can negotiate anything.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? Okay, here's another one from Terry. When did you start planning for the gala? That's a good one. And then, meaning, how many months did it take? And then, my church celebrating 180 years, 2006, tribute memorial. Where blah, 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 you know, I said the Republic Church. Okay, Joe, you want to answer that, or do you want me to jump in? It's up to you.
Sure. So full disclosure, we started planning for the gala. Um, I want to say 9 months before the initial date. Because if you remember, Paul, we were going to
Yeah,
have
I
the
remember.
gala in January,
Yeah.
and we were just not ready. So we pushed it back to May. of this year, 2025.
And
But
why weren't you ready, Joe? Tell them why.
we weren't ready because we didn't have our budget in place.
Exactly.
We didn't have our funding in place to do it. And so we literally had to get funding in place and get things budgeted and get everybody on board to take the
That's
risk
the
that
other
we
thing
need to
too.
take.
Yeah.
And we had to convince people.
Yeah.
And as the leader, I had to convince people. And I want to say too that in all of this, from a leadership point of view and a giving point of view and a sponsorship point of view, I stepped out up to be a sponsor because how can I ask people to give if I don't have skin in the game either? So my family's name was on the screen of sponsors so people could see, you know what, the pastor is invested in this. And so if he's invested in this, well, then surely I can be. But we started planning the gala, Paul, I'd say a good 9 months before.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
and that's because I threw it on Joe, and I was like, "Hey, Joe, I think we should do a gala." And Joe's
yeah,
like, "Well, that's a good idea." But then by the time we came around, so we didn't have it in the budget last year, but when we
right.
came around this year, Joe put it in the budget, got it approved, and we were able to do it. So we had to back into it this year. But the honest answer to the question too is we stopped planning. Or I should say, we slowed down
Yeah,
when we because we thought we were going to have it in January. So we slowed down and we're like, okay, well, we'll meet. And so we didn't. So I would say, honestly, we probably started planning, if it was consistent, I'd
October.
say maybe 8 or 9 months
Yeah,
full in
yep,
would be my answer.
yep. And so Terry, I would suggest to you heavily if you're celebrating 180 years in 2026, um, you know, really nail down when in 2026 are you going to do this? Get your date together now because you're less than 6 months away from 2026.
Yeah.
Time jumps on you
Oh my
quick,
gosh. We were,
and it
next thing you
jumps
turn
on you.
around and it's like, what?
Yeah, and you got to calculate the fact that nothing's going to get done in December because you got nothing's going to get done from November 15th to December
Yes.
31st because you
And we
got
didn't take that into account.
we've taken
Yeah.
so that's 60 days, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
45 days right there that you lose. And so you got to take into consideration holidays and when people just aren't going to be doing stuff. And
Right.
you got to give yourself, as Paul was saying, the 8 or 9 months to really
Yeah.
get it done. So if it were me, I'd be thinking of a 2026 gala, um, probably in the late spring,
Yeah.
uh,
Early
or
fall.
even the fall of
Yeah.
2026.
Yeah. I,
Yep.
I agree. As it relates to sponsorships, did your team establish specific benchmarks or targets for the number of individuals, corporations? No, we didn't do that. So what we did was, since this was our first, and we're a church, so they're not used to doing this. This is an excellent question too, um, but we didn't do that because we wanted to just establish what we could do. We didn't want to say we want you to raise this amount of money, this amount of money, this amount of money. We first sat down, looked at who we could get sponsors for. We then looked at how much we could get from them, and then that's how we did it. So we sort of did it backwards from a professional nonprofit that had been running for a while that has done these. That would be different. So if I was working at a university or a hospital, I would do it that way because you know what they can bring in. This was Emory's first time, and we just wanted to be successful. And we just wanted to raise over $100,000. And that's what we sort of focused on. Because remember, we didn't look at this as a fundraiser per se. This was a splash to let people know what Emory was doing in the community. And by the way, we wanted to raise some money along the way. And that's what we did. So we were a little bit different than your traditional special event fundraising.
Yep.
I hope that answers your question.
And we wanted to honor people, and we wanted to honor those four that we selected,
Exactly.
and their families. Yep.
And she second part to hers is, was it corporations local entities intended to approach and secure commitments. They were local as well as some people were like, Walmart's national. So that was, but I would really encourage everyone to focus on corporations as well. Normally, in terms of fundraising, I stay away from corporations because they just don't know how to give money away. They're a hassle. It's just a mess. But in terms of galas and special events, that's what they're good at. They have line items for money to go to galas. So we really lean into corporations as well as foundations for special events and galas. So yes, definitely local as well as international. I'm sorry, national. And foundations, I would add foundations to that as well. But a lot of times foundations won't want to be a part of galas, but we have found some that would. Are there any other questions? We have a couple more minutes. I don't want to keep Joe on too long. Any other questions people would like to ask? And then, by the way, while we're waiting for one or two more questions, Joe and I, we put together a five gala planning lesson for you all for $125,000. So we're gonna sit, for the event. That's how much our gala we raised, and so we're gonna send that to everybody that's interested in that. And so it's gonna be our Joe's 5 lessons that he learned from this, and so we're gonna send that to everybody. So you can thank Joe for that. Any other questions? And then, Joe, why don't we, if we don't hear another question, what is the last thing that you'd like to say to everybody about the gala, and if they're thinking about doing it, what would you say to them?
I would say a couple of things, and might be repetitive. Forgive me if I am, but doing the gala has generated a sense of excitement, a sense of pride, and a sense of, wow, we can do great things within our congregation that will take us to places that we don't even know we're going. And I'm saying this again out of a context of a church that in my situation, we almost closed 33 years ago. And we were almost sold on 2 occasions. And yet our congregation over the years has gotten to a point where we even built a 99-unit housing facility. But even still with that, we continue to try to get people to see that we can do even more and do things even greater than what we've done. And so this gala has really been a shot in the arm for us to see that, wow, we've done these great things, we can do even greater things.
Joe, if I can just add to that, what's even
Yeah,
funny, Joe and I were laughing probably about a month ago because our goal, I think Joe and I have an external goal of $500,000, internal goal of $350,000. We didn't make this a part of that goal, and we added another $100,000 on it last week. So
right,
Joe and I, we haven't even started on our $600,000 goal,
right,
and that's not
right,
even a part of it that we're going to
right,
hit by the end of the year, likely because we have a case for support, and we're going to go out and ask individuals. So
right.
we're not even. That's what
We're
when
just
Joe
at the
is
beginning.
saying we
We're
got
just at the
bigger and
beginning.
better plans. We
Yeah,
haven't even started yet. We
yeah,
haven't even started. Joe was up $200,000 last year. We haven't even started asking for money yet.
right,
This
right.
this gala was this year.
Yep. It's
You
three
understand?
2 months ago. Two
Yeah.
months ago. And 2 months ago. And the opportunity that we have to really build fundraising within the culture of our congregation that's beyond chicken dinners and beyond, the
Yeah.
traditional fundraising things that we do is enormous. Uh, but as we take the time and make the commitment to laying this foundation, incredible things can be seen and experienced.
Yeah, no question. Well, thank everybody for being on the line. And Joe, my brother, I love you. I appreciate you, and it's nothing better with working with your brother. It's cool. Hey, I want to
Back
say,
at you, man. Back
Joe,
at you.
it's not all fun and games. Joe and I, we get mad at each other.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
we say stuff to each other, but we know that we're in it for our community, and so
Yep,
we know that. So
yep,
it's not all fun and games, but it's work, but we get it done. Joe
it
gets
does.
his team together, I get mine, and we get it done. So
Yep,
the before we let you guys go, the main thing to remember is get help. It doesn't have to be with NFM, but get help from somebody that's an expert at this stuff, and you will be fine. If you try to do it and you haven't done it before, it's a lot of moving parts. It just is. So but you can do it. As Joe said, you can do this. Joe, final word.
I thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be with you and great to be with everybody to share today. And I look forward to what's coming.
I agree. I do. And Joe and I, we got a meeting later on today. So I'll see Joe in about 2 hours or 4 hours,
Right,
Joe. I love you,
right.
brother. Thank
Love
you,
you too, brother.
everybody. You guys be well, and we will see you guys soon. We'll see. Oh, let me tell you what we're doing
Bishop
next
Bishop
month.
Bishop Weatherspoon is on too, man. Good
Oh, okay.
Bishop
That's what's up.
Weatherspoon.
So what we have for our next lunch and learn is harnessing AI for ministry and mission tools Black churches and Black nonprofits can use. And that's with your favorite person, Deepa. She's going to be back on. She's with Grant Orb, and that's going to be August 13th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Lunch and learn. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thanks again, brother. I'll see you in a couple hours.
Sounds
Love you,
good.
man.